So to get started, we are going to put our yard flag down first. If you want to, you can put some paper or something on your table or ground, wherever you're doing your craft, just to keep it safe from the paint. We are going to grab our watermelon stencil, and we are using stencil that looks like it has a bite taken out of it. Then we're going to take the tape that you got. We are using painter's tape, that way it will easily come off of the burlap when we are done. Hopefully yours comes off a little smoother than mine. I'm just going to try to take the other side of the back off here. And I am just going to stick this on painter's tape on so that the stencil will not move. Be careful what kind of tape you use. If you try to use different tape or if you want more tape, I would highly encourage you to use the painter's tape. So now we are going to grab our brush. Remember, on the supplies, it does say you need a stencil brush. There is a big difference between a stencil brush and then using a regular brush. It is very circular. This is what it looks like. I highly encourage you to use one of these because we aren't going to be painting like this. We are going to be painting up and down, up and down. We don't want to put a ton of paint on the brush. It's almost going to be like there's very little. So we're going to start off with our pink. We are going to grab just a little bit, and we're going to I'm going to kind of dab on here so that I have very little on my brush, so that if I was to tap it, to shake it, hardly any is going to come off. So you can see the brush, and now we are going to dab on here, because what's going to happen is if you get too much paint on here, it's going to go through to the other side of your sack, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want it to bleed through. So we're going to do this all throughout this part, this main part right. One reason I also encourage you to use the stencil brush and to use very little paint on your brush is because then it is going to dry a whole lot faster, because we do have to do a layer on top of the pink, and that is going to be the black for the watermelon seeds. So make sure you're not putting much on there. If you do, just go very lightly here and go all around and just get it mixed right in, and we're going to continue doing the rest of our. So before we move on to our next step, we are going to leave the pink to dry. So now that my pink is dry, I am going to take the other stencil, the stencil for the watermelon seeds, and I am going to place it on there how I would like my seeds to show up. So I think that's going to be a good placement. So I'm going to sit it down. If you have extra tape at home, you can tape it to, or you could use any tape. You could tape it to the stencil. However, be careful. Actually, I should say if you have extra tape, maybe tape it up here at the top, because then you could flip it over when you're ready. But be careful taping it, just because we do have another section to do. Or you could skip, do the green, and then do the black last here. That way, if you tape them together, there's no issue. So we're going to continue to use our stencil brush here. And we're gonna, once again, put very little on there because we don't want it to bleed through, and we just don't need a lot. You could also have a paper plate and you could blot it out, extra paint on the paper plate or on a paper towel. So I'm gonna hold down the stencil and I'm gonna do the black here. And once you get started, I would keep a hand on the stencil. That way it won't move and your seeds won't be all over the place like I'm sure mine might be, because I started to take my hand up. So I may have had too much paint on that one. If you end up having too much paint, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. I'm gonna get just a little bit more. And I've got 2 more left here. So once you've got these painted, I would leave the stencil on to dry, or if you feel pretty confident, you can pick it up and let them dry. I'm gonna let mine dry before I move on to the next step. So I got a bit confident and actually went ahead and pulled the seed stencil up. So my black is still wet. If you do decide to pull them up, just be careful as you're painting your final step here. So you've got 2 green paints in your bag. You can use both, you can use one. I am gonna use both, and I am gonna do the outside of my rim, the darkest color, and then I'm gonna go over top with the lighter. I may go back and maybe add the darker over top just a little bit. I'll just see what it looks like. So as usual, we're gonna continue to use our brush, and we just want a little bit so we can dab on the up down motion that we've been doing. I am just going to do the very outside. I'm not going to do the entire thing here just because I want to use both of the colors, and I think that would actually look really cool. Actually, now that I think about it, I think the lighter color might have looked good first and then the darker over top, but I can always go back over the lighter later. So I have my dark green done. I am going to go straight into my light green. If you're doing both like me, you could let it dry. I am not. I am going to continue right in to my light green. I'm also not cleaning my brush off just to see how the colors will mix together. Once again, continue to use the stencil brush. It is very important to use the stencil brush and do the dabbing. I'm gonna go ahead and do the light here. Yeah, I might go back and do some dark on top of my light. That might have mixed a bit better than what I had decided to do. You want to continue to hold the other parts of your stencil. So like my middle part here is starting to kind of come up. My fingers might get a little paint on it, but not a big deal. You do want to be careful with the paint because it is acrylic paint. So I'm going to continue to finish the green all around the side here. And then I think I am going to go back over the bottom actually with dark again because I think that might look better personally for mine. We would love to see pictures of your finished products, especially if you decide to add anything else. Like the backs are completely open for you to do whatever you would like. You could add another watermelon. You could put something else. If you've got a device to do vinyl at home, like a Cricut or Silhouette, you could add another phrase. You could hand paint something else. You could do whatever you wanted to the back. So I've got the light green on. I am, like I said, going to add some dark green on the bottom now because I would like to see that dark green, and I actually think it might look cool. See the light green going into the dark green. So I'm not gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna put just a little bit on my brush, and I'm just gonna dab just enough. I don't want it to completely cover the light green like that happened with the light green actually. It took over from the dark green, which is why I'm going back over this so that on the bottom, we will just see, and you do want to be careful how much you use so that this won't bleed through. Do just a little bit here. In some places the light green has really taken over, and I want to be able to see both of those colors all the way around my watermelon. So now we are gonna let it dry. You really wanna make sure to let it dry before you handle it a lot, and then pull up your stencil. And there is our craft for this month. So these are available first come, first serve until they are gone. Just stop by the front desk, or you can come through our drive-through window and pick and ask one, and we will bring one to you. This is our last craft for the summer. We will have adult crafts back this fall.